Hi, this is John Clark from LifeToSuccess.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at this statement here. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world. It's frustrating and it seems like it's only getting worse. What do I do? A friend of mine posted this on Facebook and she was very frustrated the other day. It seemed like when she posted this. And with good reason. It does seem like there's an awful lot of stuff going on in the world right now that seems to be really bad. We just seem to be at that time in our world's history where a lot of stuff is just doesn't really seem like it's all that positive. So by all observation, it's certainly may appear that there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world, and it truly does appear that it's only getting worse. So why is that? Why does it have the appearance of getting worse? Well, I was born in 1967, so um, if I have a great length of period where I grew up with no technology. We had three channels. We had corded phones. A lot of stuff that my kids have never experienced in their lifetime, and even my grandson has never talked on a phone with a cord on it. So there's a lot of things that are going on now that we have going on that we didn't have when we were kids. So for people my age or even older, it would certainly have the appearance of things actually getting worse. So why does it have that appearance? Well, we live now with the platforms of Facebook and Twitter, which is instantaneous communication about everything. No matter where it is in the world, we have instant communication about any shootings, bombings, whatever the case may be. We have instantaneous feedback from the world through these platforms. And people post them, they share them, they link to them. There's all sorts of avenues. There's people on the street reporting directly about what's going on. And then we actually have the news services, Drudge Report, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, all of these other news services that are playing catch up because we have people on the ground reporting in real time what is actually going on. So when you look back 20 years, we didn't have any of that. We had ABC, CBS, NBC. We had limited cable channels. We had the local newspapers. We had the New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Los Angeles Times. We had all the major newspapers, Wall Street Journal. We had all the major newspapers, but we were always getting news about any real bad stuff. We were really only getting news about some of these things days later. So by that time, the heat of the situation is all warmed over. If you even seen it about let's say a shooting that happened down in Alabama, let's say for example 20 years ago, you might have heard about it 3 days later. Now it's reported instantly. It's on every single news channel almost instantaneously with video footage of the live event of the shooter being taken down by the police. So it's days later, back in the 20s, now is instantaneous to the point where we're watching the police respond. That's amazing. But it would also give the appearance of that we got a whole bunch of bad stuff going on. Where this stuff, there are actually statistics that show that the actual number of violent crimes is actually declining, not increasing. The only thing that's increasing is the coverage of these events. And if you haven't heard the quote that is quote for the news business, if it bleeds, it leads. So their job is to raise as much emotion as possible about particular stories, and that's what they do. That's how they get eyes to look at their stories. That's how they get commercials, people to buy commercials on their TVs because they put eyes onto their news stories. So what do you do? With all that seems to be happening that is bad, what do you do? So I've got a couple of ideas about that. In Stephen Covey's great book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he wrote a whole chapter on the idea of the circle of influence and the circle of concern. The circle of concern is everything that is right outside of our direct influence. So examples would include the news stories from around the world, what our politicians are doing in Washington, and what the terrorists are doing overseas or in our own country. All these things we have no control over whatsoever. They're happening. We have no control over them other than going to vote every November for the politicians we elect to go to Washington. We have no control over what they're doing. So, all of the things that are, with all of the things that are outside of our control, when we focus on those to the exclusion of what we do control, what ends up happening is our influence actually shrinks. So the more that we focus on things that are out of our control, the more control we actually give up. And I'll even equate that to happiness. The more that we rely on outside circumstances to make us happy, the more power we give to those outside circumstances to make us happy. So I'll probably do a video on that in the future. I'm gonna write a note about that after this, after I record this video, because that's important to understand. So, anyways, let's get back to the circle of concern, circle of influence. The circle of influence is everything that you have direct control over, which can basically be narrowed down to two things: what we think and what we do. Those are the only two things that we as human beings have complete control over: what we think and what we do. And believe it or not, that's enough. That's enough for us to live a life of happiness, is to control those two things. So here are three things that we can do to control what we can control. Number one, focus on the areas that we have control over. Start looking for ways of being of service to those around us immediately. This could be family members, friends, co-workers, and so on. Start looking at your job and look at ways to make your work life better. How can you make your boss's job easier? Start to align your goals with your boss's goals at work. As frustrating as that may seem sometimes, when we focus on doing everything we can do, our life exponentially gets better. So control that. Control your attitude about your work. Control your attitude about the things around you. So that's number one. Number two, start a fitness program. If it's been something that you haven't done for a long time, start slowly. Just get out and walk half a mile. Walk around the block. Start doing that day in and day out. Next thing you know, you're up to a mile. There's a lot of physical benefits that you get from doing this. There's a lot of mental benefits you get as well. Also, once you start to get your blood flowing, your body starts to release the feel-good chemicals in your body. So don't deny yourself those. Get yourself physically active, doing something. It's important. Number three, start to expose yourself to positive information. As the video started off with, that we just seem to be bombarded by bad news after bad news after bad news. How you can control that is start to put positive influences in front of you. Excuse me. Read good books. Listen to voices of value. Go to church. Listen to a pastor's sermon one day if you haven't been in a while. Just go in and get a positive message. Get around positive people. Get around people who challenge you to become better. That's the only way you're going to stretch or grow, is by getting around people who actually challenge you to do better. So, to wrap this up, as frustrating as all the current news may be in the world, there are still things that you have complete control over. And that is what you think and what you do. And again, this always comes down to the way you habitually handle what you think and what you do. Habits are a huge part of our life. So, below this video is a link to the habit busting system. If you haven't already done so, take the opportunity, click that link, look at the videos on that page, and take advantage of that program. It'll give you some different insights on how you can change the way you think and how you change the way you act, and hopefully give you some ideas on how to make your life better and the life of those around you better. So, again, this is John Clark from LifeToSuccess.com. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave your comments down below, and thank you for watching.